Thunder rolling from the mountain. When Frederick first came to Joseph's village, the young chief welcomed him in pieced-together English, Nimipu and Chinook Wawa, an old jargon used between fur traders and Northwest tribes. Late in the evening, Joseph asked Frederick a question, and a brave named Red Rock Lizard translated. Hinmatuyalakekt asks, why whites come to our land like grasshoppers? Frederick thought for a moment. They are hungry for a new life, he said, and picked up a handful of dirt. Fertile soil, freedom, new life. But Red Rock Lizard stared at him, confused. Frederick pondered. How could he explain how so many whites lived in poverty and disease and squalid cities? How could he explain that this beautiful land was like paradise? He scrunched up his shoulders and body to look small and skulking. His eyes darted all around as if in fear. Then suddenly he raised his arms to the sky, his eyes wide with wonder. He smiled broadly, breathed deeply to take in fresh air, open spaces. He brought his raised hands together as if thanking the Creator. Suddenly, Red Rock Lizard's face brightened in recognition. He turned to Joseph and nodded to the sky, repeating, Ilaka Wispa, Ilaka Wispa. Joseph nodded and smiled sadly at Frederick. Yes, yes, he said, this land of goodness you call heaven. Frederick had often observed the difference in how whites and Indians regarded land. The Nez Perce lived nestled in the Bitterroots, the lap of the Rockies, where stone-studded velvet meadows swelled in the shadows of jagged giants. The land yielded abundance, but nature's bounty was flanked by ruthless beauty that taught them humility and reverence too. The Nez Perce did not understand the white notion of owning land. How could Mother Earth be owned by such temporal beings when she was forever? How could she be owned by those beholden to her for life itself, whose feeble flesh and brittle bones she took back into her womb? It was with puzzlement that natives observed the encroachment of the strange whites, skin pale as the underbelly of a fish, whose wagon train scarred the land with rutted veins. Chief Tukakis, Joseph's father, had skillfully avoided signing treaties ceding land. His people hunted and lived freely in the lush hills of their ancestors, peaceably trading and coexisting with whites. But when gold and silver were discovered near the Orofino River, a chasm split the tribe. Many Nimipu chiefs signed treaties. Only 7 chiefs, Chief Tukakis among them, refused to give up their land. But how could they stand on the mountainside in the face of an avalanche? When Joseph and Olacott returned to their camp at the fork of the Wallowa River, their father lay dying inside his teepee, swaddled in bearskins beside a crackling fire. The chief was weak and raspy, his chest rising and falling like an ocean tide. His sons began to keen in a low chant, and it seemed to the old man beautiful and sad, like the distant howling of wolves under the stars, a celestial sprinkling in a sugared night sky. I fear not for my own passing, my sons, he ground out the words. My heart is heavy for my people. He took a deep breath. Nimipu oracles have foretold vast change, much struggle. You know this. My own dreams tell me this, he said. He suffered greatly with the hard reckoning that lay ahead, lodged like a hatchet between the prophetic and the profane. Once, in the fullness of manhood, his soul had been a mighty cyclone. Those had been days of plenty when buffalo roamed as far as his eyes could see. The rivers were thick with salmon, and his people prospered and lived in peace. But now the whirlwind of his spirit, like the cornucopia of his people, had spiraled down to a tip so tenuous it had dissipated into air, like displaced memory, like a lost frontier, and there was no help for it. He felt the air above him crowded with souls. He gulped, his chest rattling. Then his breath whisked upward, floating with a curl of smoke out of the teepee and into the vast sky. Tukakis died with young Joseph at his side. It was autumn, and exactly 66 summers since Lewis and Clark had smoked the peace pipe with the Nimipu. Before his last breath passed before his lips, he entreated Joseph to keep a promise. My son, he choked out, my body is returning to Mother Earth. When I am gone, think of your people. They look to you to guide them. Always remember, your father never sold this land. You must stop your ears when they tell you to sign a treaty. Soon the white men will be all around you. They have their eyes on this land. This land holds my body. Never, never sell the bones of your father and your mother.